Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the Game and Party channel, and in this video I'm going to show you how to play and give a review on the game Era Medieval Age. This is a roll and build game, so I'm going to show you how the game plays and then I'll give you my thoughts on it at the end. But first I'm going to show you the components of the game here in Era Medieval Age. It comes with this really cool player board here where you get to push down your pieces. It's like a little pegboard. And it comes with a bunch of different buildings, like farms and longhouses, cathedrals, all these beautiful little buildings, which if you're into painting minis, you could paint these and make it look really cool. And so this is a roll and build game. It also comes with these dice over here that you're going to be rolling in the game. There's yellow dice, gray dice, there's some blue ones and white ones also. We start the game with 3 yellows and a gray. There's also these scorched earth areas. If you're playing a 2-player game, you start with 2 of these on your board. You can't build in those areas. If you're playing a 3-player game, you just start with 1 of those. If you're playing a 4-player game, you don't start with any of those, but you can get some of these during the game. And it comes with a cool little shield here with a player aid on the back of it that is very helpful. All right, so how do you start your turn? Well, first of all, you're all going to start with a board here. You're going to start with 3 long houses. That's the little yellow ones here that I'm showing you. And one of these keeps that goes right in the center of your board. It's like basically a little castle there, goes right in the center. And then 3 walls around that. And you can build this any way you want. You're going to do this behind your shield so your opponents won't see it, and then reveal all of a sudden to show your town that you built here. And then you start with some resources here. You're going to start with 0 trade goods, 1 stone, 2 wood, and 3 food, going in a diagonal there. Over here you're going to start with 0 culture and 0 disasters. And if you're the first player, you'll get this little black marker here, and this is the round tracker marker right there. All right, after you've got that set up, you're going to roll your dice, and you're going to roll them behind your screen. Now, I'm not going to roll them behind the screen for this video so you can see me, but you're going to roll the dice. If you roll a skull, you must keep that die. So if you roll one like this is what a skull looks like here. If you roll a skull, you must keep that die. You can see the little skull in the center there. It's got 2 more symbols on those, so you do get some things, but you've got to keep that die. Anything else you can re-roll again, and just like Yahtzee, you get 3 rolls, so you get to roll, roll, and then a 3rd roll. After that, you then reveal to your opponents what you have on your die. The next step down, you move the little black marker down and go to your next step, and your next step is to collect your resources. And so if I've got, for example, this one has 3 wood on it, then I get to go up 3 wood on my board here. If I've got 2 stone, I go up stone. If I have trade goods, I go up on the trade goods. If I have food, I go up on the food. The food's a picture of wheat. The wood's, of course, pictures of wood. And the trade goods are a picture of the little crates. There are some swords in the game also. And so there's some attacking that happens in the game with these gray die here. I'll explain that in a moment. All right, next step you go to in this game is feed your people. So for every die that you have, you've got to feed your people. So I've got 4 die, so I have to go down 4 on my food. If you don't have enough food to feed your people, then you go down on this disaster track. It's the orange one over here. And every disaster point you have is a negative point at the end of the game. So you want to try to make sure you have enough food for your people. These farms that you get in the game give you 1 extra food. You're supposed to start with the actual farm too at the beginning of the game. And that gives you 1 extra food each round. So when you collect your resources, if you have a farm, you get an extra food. So in that first round when I was collecting items, I should have had a farm, I should have collected 1 extra food. If you build more farms, then you collect more food. So if I've got 4 farms, during the collect phase, I'm going to get 4 food plus whatever I've rolled on my dice too. So you can get a bunch of food, but it does max out at 10. Each one of these has a max value. If you roll and get more wood or stone or food than you can hold, then it's just wasted. All right, so after you have collected your resources and fed your people, then we move on to the disaster phase. And that's a little skull here. The disaster phase is you resolve whatever's on the skulls. And on the back of this player aid, it actually tells you exactly what's going to happen with those disasters. So I'll just read them to you here. So for 1 skull, you lose 1 resource. So basically just go down to any one of the resources here, stone, trade goods, wood, or food. If you have 2, then you have a disease that outbreaks. And for every clustered building, you get a disaster point over here. Also, if you don't want to lose a resource, you can gain a disaster marker here also. So that's either +1 disaster or lose a resource for the number 1 skull. For the number 2 skulls, you get a disease, and it is a 1 disease marker down for every clustered building. What is a clustered building? A clustered building is a building that is touching another building orthogonally, like those 2 buildings are there. If they're diagonally touching each other, they are not clustered, and so you're fine. If they're touching a wall, that's fine also, as long as it's not touching another building. So in this case right here, I would have 0 clustered buildings right now because all 3 of those are not touching each other except for diagonal. So putting clustered buildings together can be dangerous because if you have 2 skulls, you're going to have a bunch of outbreaks and disease markers are going to go down on you. If you have 3 skulls, now your opponents get a scorched area. So you hand them a scorched area and they put it down on their board in an unwalled area. If you get 4 skulls, you get a fire that breaks out and you lose a building. You just have to take a building off your board. Any benefits that you were gaining from that building, for example, these longhouses give me 1 yellow die. If I burn one of those, then I lose a yellow die. So that can be disastrous because yellow dice gives you food, and of course you're going to need food to feed your people. If you get 5, you get to attack. An opponent loses an unwalled building. Opponents actually lose an unwalled building. So you're just saying, I'm attacking everybody else in the game, and everybody loses a building that's not in their walls. And of course, at the beginning of the game, nothing's in your walls until you completed them. And you want to get those completed in the game because having a walled area doubles the amount of points for those buildings in that area. All right, and the last thing is if you get 6 or more skulls, you lose all your trade goods. That's the blue one here. Trade goods are very valuable in this game. They allow you to build some of the bigger buildings. So that's pretty much it, how the disasters work there. All right, so the next step after disaster is you get to build. And how do you build? Well, again, on the back of this player aid, it shows you what it takes to build a building. So I can build a wall for 1 stone. And I can build any size wall I want. There's multiple size walls in this game. I can build any one of these wall sizes that I want, just as by paying 1 stone. But to build, you have to have a hammer. And so some of these dice have hammers on them. Like this one's got 2 hammers on it. And that allows me to build 2 items. If you don't have any hammers, you can't do any building because your people just weren't doing any building that time. So no hammers, no building. Next thing you can do is you can spend 3 stone to build a keep. A keep is one of these little items here you start with at the beginning of the game. This keep also counts as a walled area. So if I have a keep built like so, and I have 2 walls going across it like that, that is considered a complete wall because it's built into the wall. If I have it like this though, diagonally next to it, that is not a completed wall. That is, they have to be orthogonally adjacent to each other. This would be fine also because it's orthogonally adjacent to the keep there. That's fine. That's considered a completed wall. All right, so I'm not going to go through all of the buildings in the game here. They're all on the back of the sheet. So basically it shows you what the resources are here that you need to build those buildings. At the end of the game, each of the buildings are worth a number of points here. Those points are doubled if they're inside of a walled area. Also, each one of these buildings gives you some sort of benefit. Like for example, if you build a keep, you get a gray die. So if you build another keep, you get a 2nd gray die. If you build a longhouse, then you get another yellow die. And if you build a Berger, you get a blue one. If you build a townhouse, you get a Berger dice, which is a blue one. If you build a church, you get a white dice, which is a clergy. And they all have different items on them. Let me show you the blue dice and the white dice real quick. So here's an example of the blue dice and white dice. The blue dice have more trade goods on them, which is great. You need those for some of the bigger buildings. The white dice has this little feather on it. This feather right here is important. I'll show you how that works. If you roll all 3 of your rolls and at the end you have a feather showing, you can use that feather to re-roll that die and another die along with it, including a skull. So that's one way to get rid of skulls in the game, is using those using that dice right there. There are also some bonuses that occur in the game here. They're listed on the right hand side of the player shield. These bonuses are not doubled if they're in a walled area, just the value of the buildings there. All right. The last step in the game here is move down, and there is some fighting that happens on the last round of this. The fighting is decided by these swords right here. If you have more swords than someone else in the game, then you can attack that person. So you may get attacked by someone else, and then you may attack someone else if they have less swords than you. When you attack them, or you extort them, actually is what it's called in the game, you just take a resource from them. Take one of the resources. If they can't pay the resource, or they refuse to, they go down 2 marks on their track here. This white peg here, this is actually the culture track. There are certain buildings that give you culture. You go down on that, and this is actually extra points at the end of the game. And there are some buildings that actually double the points on the culture also. That's it. Then you take out the first player marker, you hand it to the person to your left, they put it in their board, and you start the next round again. All right, the game is over once the buildings have been replenished. So if you take the last of a building type, and there's no more left of that building type, then you turn over one of these little markers here, indicating that a building type has been replenished. Once another building type is gone, you turn another one over, and you continue doing that. And once enough of these red X's show, the game is over. The number of X's that need to be shown are different based on the number of players. If you're playing a 2 or 3 player game, you're only going to use 3 of those tokens. So once 3 of them are turned over, the game is over. If you're playing a 4 player game, then you're going to use all 5 of those items. And I also want to mention in the back of the book, there's a breakdown of what all of the die faces mean. Keep in mind also, even if you do roll a skull, they do come with other items that you will receive. So you're not out of luck just for having a skull. Also on the back of the book, if you turn this over to the very back, there is a breakdown of the buildings and what they mean and their effects. So I found it very helpful to keep this handy while we were playing the game. All right, that's how you play Era Medieval Age. Let's come back up and I'll give you my thoughts. All right guys, so that's Era Medieval Age. It is a roll and build game. I will tell you right now, and I'll throw a picture up here so you guys can see this. When you get done, you have this really cool city that you've built. So I want to show you what that looks like. My wife and I played this, and when we got done, we immediately took pictures of the city because it's so cool when you get done to have this little city that you built. To me, that feels so much more rewarding than a roll and write where you basically throw the piece of paper away at the end and nobody cares about what's on that paper. But this, you take a picture of the city, and every time you play, you'll get a different city build. That's pretty cool. I like that. So the tactile feel of the buildings, the fact that they are on a pegboard instead of just writing, love that. Love the idea of this game. Rolling dice and keeping some, that's a typical thing you see in lots of games, like Yahtzee mechanic. That's fine. I like that. There's a lot of luck mitigation though, because you can do things like with that. If you can get that feather, you can re-roll another die and get rid of the skulls. You can also press your luck a little bit. Like say if you've got 2 skulls, maybe go for that 3rd one so you can scorch earth someone else. There's lots of little tricks and techniques in that. So I like the tactics and the strategy of this game, even though there's a lot of luck because it is dice rolling. I do like that about the game. And again, it's so satisfying having this building when you get done. I love that. The game is about 45 to 60 minutes. It feels about right. So when you get done, you feel like you had enough time to actually build a city. So it's a little bit of an engine building also, because when you build these blue buildings, you get the blue die. When you build a white building, you get the white die. And so you can have 7 or 8 die in your hand, but you have to feed those people. So you got to make sure you build some farms or make sure you roll food. And if you don't roll food, you can get a bunch of disasters and you can really bring your score down. So you have to mitigate that bonus that you have of getting all these dice by making sure you have enough food. So I like that kind of a pressure luck item there, where I can get a bunch of dice, but I got to make sure I get food too. This game is a lot of fun. I would say that the only negative that I would say about the game is the player board itself, this pegboard here. There is the round tracker on the left here. Yeah, you can't see that. I am going to have to put a little paint on that, or a wash or something, or print something up, stick it next to it. You can't see that at all. It's very, very hard to see. The yellow, the yellow is what it is. I don't know if they could have gone with a different color like green or gray or something different, but I don't mind the yellow. I like the pegboard itself. One thing also, you've got to put this first keep right center of the board when you start the round, so start the game. And there's no mark to show you what the center is. Now, of course, you can just count over and find it, but God, I wish I just put like one little dot, a little mark right in the center of the board so I'd know where the center was. Make it a little easier. So just little things like that, little nitpicky things. Other than that, I would say the game is great. I like the fact that these little pegs here are kind of flexible, so I don't have to worry about those breaking. Where in some games you have a wooden peg, and if it gets hit to the side, it's broken, it's gone. These you don't have to worry about that. I like the little round trackers. These are nice. This is, for sure when the game is going to end by watching these. And the only mean part of the game that you can really run into is this scorched earth. If you roll, I think it's 3 skulls. Let's see. Yes, when you have 3 skulls, you do treachery. Opponents scorch an unwalled area, and you give everybody else in the game one of these. So here you go. You can put that on your board now. That's kind of mean. That can really hurt somebody, especially if they've filled up their board quite a bit. They don't have a whole lot of area left, and they all of a sudden have to throw down a scorched earth in a spot where they were going to build a wall. Yeesh, that can be tough. So, but if you're that kind of person where you like to affect the other people in the game, great. Try to roll 3 skulls, and if you've got 2, you definitely want to roll 3, because if you have 2 skulls, you get a disease. If you've got a bunch of clustered buildings, you're going to get a bunch of disasters. Go down on the disaster track quite a bit. So you don't want that to happen. So your way to mitigate that is go for that 3rd skull, so you can handle scorched earth instead. But you got to be careful, because you get 4, then you lose a building. So it goes back and forth. And if you get 5. Then your opponent's losing on wall building. So it's like the odd ones do something to the opponents, the even ones do something to you, except the number 1. The number 1, you lose a resource or go down on the disaster track. So I like that. I like the fact you can kind of press your luck a little bit with the skulls. These buildings are really cool. Like I mentioned at the beginning, if you like painting minis, this is something you could paint, and it would be really cool to see on the board. In fact, my wife likes to paint minis. She might do that. We'll see. But so there you go. So it's a roll and build game. I've heard that the price tag's a little high. I think it's the MSRP is $70, so it's a little higher than some games. That could be a turnoff to some people. I'm not going to say one way or the other whether that's for you or not, because everyone's in a different situation when it comes to that. But if you like roll and write games, but you're looking for something a little textile, and this is also spatial recognition. Yes, like the Tetris type games that are out there, you have to be able to figure out, all right, can I fit this, this building in this spot right here, and build out, because you may want to put a building in a spot later on. For example, a hospital, which has this weird, well, not weird, but it's got a plus shape basically. A hospital does not count as a what's it called, a clustered building? Yeah, it doesn't count as a clustered building when you put down a hospital. So if you can build a bunch of houses in a section and then drop a hospital right between them, you really close in an area and get a bunch of houses densely packed, which you want to do in this game, to get as many houses walled as possible. But a hospital will fit right in between there. So, but you got to make sure you build your houses or your buildings so that you can fit it right in there. That's one of the tricks and techniques. You want to try to get these higher level buildings definitely inside the walls, because if a building's worth 3 points, now it's worth 6 points if it's inside your walls. I like the fact that also you can build these walls with whatever you want. So if you want to build a long wall, it's still 1 stone. You want to build a short wall, it's 1 stone. So you don't have to worry about getting a bunch of stone to make sure you get just the right distance of wall between 2 spots. That makes it a little easier, a little more free form when you're building this out. So there you go, folks. That's Error Medieval Age. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please give me a like and subscribe, and check out Error Medieval Age. This is by Eggert Spiel. And a big thanks to Mike Young for letting me borrow this game to do a video on it. Thanks for watching, guys. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Also, check out our podcast, and you can find us on all of our social media sites on GameandParty.com. See you on the next video.